Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for joining us today at our Cybersecurity Initiative. And good morning. It's my honor for me as Chairman of the EastWest Institute to introduce our keynote speaker, His Excellency Kapil Sibal, India's Dynamic Minister of Communications and Information Technology. Mr. Sibal is serving in his post at a time of enormous, fast-paced technology transformation, both globally and at home. He's engaged in remarkable efforts to advance the technological capacity of his nation, from the broadening of the IIT network to the bold development of the Akash tablet to expedite education for India's next generation. We're all in the room today because we recognize that India is an essential partner in the international community, cooperating on cybersecurity. Mr. Sibal, we salute you for your leadership of this great nation and greatly look forward to your insight. The floor is yours, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Ross. Good morning, everybody. As I stand here today, I think of the world 20, 30 years from now. What kind of world will there be? And I believe in the history of civilization, we've never had an opportunity like this. Because I believe that for the first time, when the world will be dealing with each other through cyberspace, that the global community will realize that for the first time in human history, we require the kind of collaboration that we've never had before. All our devices, all our services are going to be provided by cyberspace. Distance is not going to matter. This will be a networked global community. And we realize that if we want to reach the humblest of human being anywhere in the world, he or she can be reached through a globally networked community. This is the great opportunity that we all have, and I compliment EastWest Institute for taking this particular agenda forward. Our healthcare systems, our education systems, our banking services systems are all going to be interconnected. Our energy systems, our transportation systems will all have to be interconnected. Now, how do we get a world which allows that to happen? And in that process of cooperation, there are going to be huge challenges. Challenges which naturally will arise through networks of this nature, because there'll be lots of people around the world who would like to dislocate these networks. And that's really the challenge that the global community faces. As I stand here today in 2011, the number of interconnect devices itself is about 6 billion. By 2015, this number will increase to about 15 billion, which is twice the population of the world today. Mobile internet traffic has reached about 597 petabytes per month, and it is expected to reach about 10 exabytes in 2016. Facebook has already about 30 million active users in this country, with almost 51% penetration. And YouTube has also about 40% penetration in this country. The penetration of smartphones in India alone by 2012, end of 2012, will be about 12%. Internet is central to commerce and communications. It has reshaped business models in retail, banking, finance, and every other sector of the economy. The government, of course, has a key role to play and is a driver for increased adoption of IT-based products and IT-enabled services in public services. Government-to-citizen services, citizens' identification, public distribution systems, healthcare, telemedicine, remote consultation, mobile clinics, education, e-learning, virtual classrooms, financial services, mobile banking, payment gateways. These initiatives have enabled IT adoption in the country through sectoral reforms and national programs. which have led to a creation of a large-scale IT infrastructure with corporate and private participation. We have a set of policies in place, and I want to talk about them today. Most of the future expansion of the cyberspace in terms of users will come from Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where regional languages, content, and culture will dominate. Technological innovations will continue to move towards mobile and social media. The cloud is expected to bring a paradigm shift in computing by offering computing as a utility in cyberspace. Each of these technical innovations and expansions come with their respective package of security and privacy concerns. And issues which could be at a technical level, such as malware, individual and business level, such as identity theft, national level, such as critical information infrastructure sabotage, and societal level, such as electronic civil disobedience. These are the challenges that the global community will face in times to come. And according to a study by Norton in 2011, threats to cyberspace have increased dramatically in the past year, afflicting 431 million adult victims globally, or 14 adult victims every second. 1 million cybercrime victims every day. That's the nature of the security concerns that we are going to face in times to come. Now, this has become, of course, a trillion-dollar business. To subvert, to sabotage, is a trillion-dollar business at the end of the day. And as you know, that when profit is a motive, this is not going to decline in any substantial way in the years to come. So how do we deal with online fraud? How do we deal with identity theft? How do we deal with lost intellectual property, which affects millions and millions of people around the world, and of course countless businesses and nations and their own security? So what do we need to do? I think as a proposition, I believe that we need a global agreement. We need a global agreement to figure out as to what are the key infrastructure requirements globally which need to be protected. Take, for example, transportation, air traffic controls. These need to be protected. Our nuclear installations, they need to be protected. Our banking financial services need to be protected. Now, I think that what we need is a global agreement that there are certain basic services which are going to serve cybersecurity in the years to come, which are going to interconnect the world in the years to come. Those basic infrastructure issues have to be dealt with and identified globally. Because if financial services are going to flow globally around the world, we need an agreement on that. We need an agreement on interoperability of devices. We need an agreement on interoperability of software. We need an agreement that when we need information from somewhere around the world, we'll get that information easily through interoperability. But that can only happen if nations come together and agree on certain basic parameters. So I think that's the first thing we need to do. Agreement on international standards. As cyberspace gets more complex and its component more and more sophisticated, new and unforeseen vulnerabilities will emerge. This calls for an increased effort to develop security technologies involving cooperation in order to achieve a necessary interoperability between solutions through agreements on international standards. In the absence of international interoperability, critical data and information will not be available to all nations, which is crucial. Then we need to devise standardized and coordinated response strategies. The cyber emergency response team must be set up in jurisdictions so that we can access information immediately whenever we feel that there is an emergency that's developing and there is a security concern and a security threat that we need to deal with immediately. So these systems must generate alerts so that we can be told anywhere in the world that there is a possibility of a sabotage and a possibility of a cyber attack. Those systems must be interconnected. If this happens, it will reduce the element of surprise of any cyber attack, which in turn brings down chaos and uninformed response. An informed response to a cyber attack is extremely critical in case of critical infrastructure like telecom and power services. 3, we need to devise a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. A comprehensive cybersecurity strategy generally contains technical protection measures, legal instruments, and capacity developed programs. Now, this is exceptionally important. If somebody commits a cyber crime, say somewhere in Africa or East Asia or anywhere in the world, how do systems get to know and how do systems get to deliver the information in relation to that cyber crime? Who committed it? Where was it committed? What is the identity of the person? What is the identity of the identity? Now, unless that is available through a collaborative global agreement, what will happen is that it will be a free play for all those who wish to commit cyber crimes. Now, will we be able to develop such a system? Can the global community get together and define legal instruments in a manner that that level of cooperation can happen? And assuming you were to get to know the identity, assuming you would get to know who the person is who did it, what are the instruments through which that person can be brought to book? In other words, what are the elements of accountability that will be part of this global agreement? Which jurisdiction will the trial take place? What are the obligations of the nation state in which that cybercrime has occurred? What are the methodologies for the exercise of jurisdiction? What are the methodologies to ensure punishment? Where will the person be punished? Under what law will the person be punished? What are the levels? What is the level of punishment that will be accorded? Now, you need a global agreement on that, because there are different laws in different parts of the world, and there are different perceptions of crime. Now, we need to get together that in the cyber world, there must be a global perception of what is a cyber crime. We need to define what that cyber crime is, and we need to define jurisdiction, and in times to come, I'm sure, there'll be cyber justices. In other words, you need instant resolution, because you can't wait for trials to take place for 5 years or 10 years for people to be brought to book. So you need a global agenda on that. In other words, if a crime were to take place in country A, and the persons affected are in country B, C, and D, then how does the perpetrator in country A, how is he brought to book? Who will decide the dispute? And that dispute has to be decided instantaneously, because the damage can continue if the trial continues for a long period of time. So you need to actively identify what I will call in the near future, in the future, what are called cyber justices. You will have to have a panel of judges who will decide this in cyberspace and give out judgments in cyberspace, and then platforms to ensure that those judgments are implemented and the jurisdictions in which those judgments will be implemented. We need to build capacity, have capacity building and capacity development programs. Then we must harmonize national criminal laws on computer crimes. This is the point that I was making. Unless that harmonization takes place, you will have all kinds of infringements, all kinds of frauds, all kinds of hate crimes and breaches of network security, and nobody will be brought to book. Then we need to build awareness amongst users for responsive use of cyberspace. We must arm our kids with tools when they take their first step and click into the cyber world. It is the common responsibility of parents, community teachers, governments to protect kids online. Informed and well-nurtured and well-cultured netizens is the foundation stone of secure cyberspace. To me, securing our cyberspace is not a technology problem that can be solved like a mathematical equation. It is a risk to be managed by a combination of defensive technology, astute analysis and information warfare, and traditional diplomacy. Such attacks should spur debate and discussion without any secrecy, both inside and outside governments at national and international levels. We have to understand that cyber crimes are potentially affecting each and every nation of this planet. Collective and coordinated action at the global level is a prerequisite to securing cyberspace. As I said earlier, gentlemen, cybersecurity is truly a global issue and must be addressed accordingly. In fact, it is such a global issue that for the first time in the history of civilization, and I started by saying that the global community will realize that if there's going to be a paradigm shift, because societies and global communities have worked entirely differently over the last 20 centuries. The 21st century is going to be truly a unique century. The way we work with each other, the way we talk to each other, the way information impacts us throughout the world is entirely different from what happened in the last 20 centuries. And I think recognizing that, we need to understand that the level of cooperation has to be entirely different. It's no longer a question of a nation protecting its own security. It is a question of the global community protecting itself. And the global community can never protect itself unless it accepts the fact that this is a great opportunity for the global community to come together to empower the humblest of human beings. And it's in great danger if that happens and systems are not in place and the humblest of the humble are jeopardized and their daily lives are jeopardized. Nations are jeopardized and their security is jeopardized. India pledges to work with the global community in the field of cybersecurity, and we believe that this initiative would be the foundation for economic growth, social progress, building innovative frameworks for prevention, response, and resilience, furthering international cooperation in cybersecurity, and tackling cybercrime. The New Delhi Summit, hosted by EastWest Institute and its Indian partners, FICCI, and National Association of Software and Services Companies, NASSCOM, and the Data Security Council of India, was launched a year ago. I'm pleased to inform this gathering that this partnership has already led to significant progress on 3 subjects. Number 1, clouds. Cloud offers both opportunities and challenges for cyberspace. While there is much work underway to optimize security within the constraints of distributed processing and storage, fundamental issues at the core of the discussion remain unresolved. Which policies apply to the data of country A when managed by country? Now, what we're going to have is we have data which the source of which would be Indian, but it may reside in another country altogether. How do I know which is the server which is serving it? How do I know where it resides? I put the information on the net. I need to know where it resides. When there's a problem, I need to know how to solve the problem, who to get in touch with. This is going to be a problem when clouds are going to burst in the years to come. In the next 2 days, of course, you will have an opportunity to build on the efforts of the EastWest Institute on issues of this nature. The other critical area which the EastWest Institute has been working on is payload security. In a perfect world, the government can access the critical information. It needs it in a timely manner to ensure national security and public welfare. Digital citizens and private sector enterprises can enjoy cyberspace with safety, security, and privacy. Freedom from being observed or interrupted. Now, where is my payload going to reside? Is that payload going to be protected? This is the issue that needs to be discussed further, and some answers to be provided in the next 2 days while this conference takes up this issue. This is an important matter for this summit. The last, of course, is development of supply chain integrity. This is extremely important because much of the hardware and software design, development, deployment, and operation are conducted by the private sector. And this is also where the overwhelming majority of expertise and experience lies. Thus, governments are at a disadvantage from the very start and need to rely on the private sector for solutions. So these solutions of supply chain integrity must be provided by the private sector. So we need collaboration at the highest level between the private sector and governments around the world. When devices are provided, hardware is produced, software solutions are produced, you need supply chain. I need to make sure that the software solution has integrity inbuilt into it, that the hardware has integrity inbuilt into it. Now, what are the international standards to ensure that those integrities are built into our solutions? Again, we need the private sector and national governments to work together on this and to provide solutions. So I know, of course, that these are some of the issues that need to be discussed. Other issues will emerge because we don't know yet what the problems will be in years to come, what the global community is going to face as we, through technology, bring solutions to our people. But one of the issues that I would like to talk about very briefly is the global undersea communications cable infrastructure. Ultimately, satellites cannot provide the bandwidth for all the data that will flow. All this will have to be provided by the global undersea communications cable infrastructure, which is already laid. I believe, of course, 40% is owned by Indian entrepreneurs. Now, we need this to be connected to the cyber world and to cyberspace. And this is often overlooked. This is a critical international infrastructure which underpins the internet and is responsible for financial transactions to the order of $10 trillion a day. $10 trillion a day. It's tightly intertwined with the stability and economic security of all of us. I commend the EastWest Institute process for its success, for championing paths to resilience, for the single points of failure, to helpful suggestions to our nation and others regarding undersea cable repair. I hope that the deliberations of the summit will help all stakeholders to create secured cyberspace with the promise of ICT for everyone, the dawn of a true knowledge society in a global village. Thank you.